Now BBC One meets another boss woman.
I think the most difficult aspect is coping with the enormously long hours that you're required to work. Most days you work 14 hours, and then of course you have work to do at weekends as well. It isn't a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job. It's very much a way of life.
I don't think it has any bearing on whether she's a woman or not. Obviously she's good enough to be the Chief Constable, and that's fine.
Mrs. Clare rejects any suggestion that hers is a token appointment made for political reasons.
But all I can say is talk to the people who work with me and who've worked with me in the past and watch how I perform, and then I think you'll probably realise that I actually got the appointment because I'd got the ability. Sit down, thank you.
People tend to think that female officers maybe have an easier ride, but obviously to get to the Chief Constable position it takes a lot of hard work and determination. It's certainly not a job that I would want to do, so you have to admire, obviously.
5 years ago, Lancashire Constabulary made history by appointing as Chief Constable Pauline Clare, the first woman to achieve this position in Britain in the 80 years since women were first admitted into the police force.
Come in. Hello,
I've got the agenda for tonight's meeting, Ma'am.
Right.
And we've got the latest amendments to it. And
I just felt so elated when I was made Chief Constable, not just because I was making history, actually. I only thought about that once I'd been successful. But it was about coming back to the county where I'd started as a young cadet all 30-odd years ago, being in charge of 5,000 people and a budget of £184 million.
Good morning, Lancashire Police.
Good morning, Lancashire Police. Can I help?
I'll just transfer you.
As Chief Constable of Lancashire, Pauline Clare is in charge of policing the country's 8th largest police force. Lancashire is a sprawling urban and rural area populated by over 1.5 million people. Ultimately, Pauline Clare is responsible to the Home Office and the local police authority.
Good morning, everyone. I don't think that there is a sort of a typical week for a Chief Constable, but the majority of the time will be taken up attending meetings. So, Paul, you were on over the weekend. Is there anything we need to know about?
No, fairly quietish weekend. Nothing of any enormous note. Assorted number of firearms operations, but nothing of any particular note. There's a suicide in the Whitworth area. No suspicious circumstance. I think it's a little bit premature, so we'll look further into that.
Right. The thing that struck me about the whole of the weekend were the number of firearms incidents that you've made reference to. They seem to be, on the increase, don't they?
Yeah, well,
there were two specifics, the checking of information before we deploy and the issue of covert arming. And so they're going to be brought up specifically as part of the course. And then at the end of each week there'll be a debrief.
I've been in the police force now 18.5 years. I've never worked for a woman before, and it's a delightful experience.
Now let's have a look at the week ahead. On Wednesday we've got a National Car-Free Day. Now, I don't know how we're going to contribute to that, but maybe it's something we can go away and think about. John, I think it'd be a good idea for you to cycle in that day.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to cycle in on Wednesday.
Can you give me a lift?
Yeah.
Well, if we can make a contribution in some way, I think we should do that.
Yes.
One of the Chief Constable's top priorities is to tackle drug-related crime. The Constabulary has been planning a major drugs raid codenamed Operation Volcano. Undercover police officers have been secretly tracking heroin and cocaine dealers for the last 6 months. They hope to arrest 28 suspects in a surprise swoop.
The people that are being arrested tomorrow will involve people who are actively and currently involved in serious criminal offences, including armed robberies. And you need to have that very much uppermost in your mind, but you are dealing with some pretty unsavoury characters, I'm afraid.
Today is the briefing. Tomorrow, at dawn, the operation will begin. The Deputy Chief Constable gives some final words.
This is what we joined for. This is good days. It's time to have fun, but have fun within that professional way that Lancashire Constabulary wants to display to all the communities that it serves. And remember that this is what you did join for. So thanks very much, and have a good time.
When we get there, first door goes in, you put the door in, we go straight in, first man through the door, straight to the back door, second two upstairs, everybody else downstairs, big shouts of clear, any problems, support.
I think all chief officers have an anchoring to be operational again. I mean, there are many, many times when you think about operational police work and how much you enjoyed it.
As the people targeted are known to be dangerous and possibly armed, full body armour, battering rams and total surprise are essential.
A male has been arrested and hasn't got a target number. If you ring Skep Thompson, I'll give you the details.
Understood, thanks for that. I'll keep here.
What I was just going to do really is give you a bit of an overview as well.
The scale of the operation is such that the Chief Constable has come to observe.
19 have been arrested, so it's been extremely successful. We've had a lot of people coming out from out in the community, saying how pleased they are, what we were doing. They've been absolutely delighted.
Obviously I was concerned about disruption to the public, but from what you're saying, you've got lots and lots of support from...
Yeah, I mean, the examples of them coming out and making brews for the officers, and they've been...
Right.
Charlie Uniform 4-3 is at Charlie Juliet with a prisoner in a queue of prisoners.
It can, to some people, look a bit aggressive, dressed the way that they are,
yes,
but it's important that they're protected, and it's for the safety of the officers, safety of the people. Nobody's been injured. As far as I know, we've had no complaints. We've had nothing but support from everybody. We recovered a firearm at one premises. We've also recovered a number of packages, which are clearly, it's too early to say, but it would appear to be 10 to 15 sizable packages in one address for distribution. We think that the drugs, but clearly
it's got to be analysed.
It's got to be analysed, and it's too early to tell.
And if the public are made aware that these people are being arrested, put before the court and are being dealt with, then I think it's actually very reassuring, isn't it? Come in.
Well, busy like that.
All right, please ask you to come in. Hello, Joanne.
Hiya, Mum.
Nice to see you. Come and sit down.
Thanks.
Hello. You're happy there? And I suppose I should start by saying congratulations, because you're one of the constables who's just been successful in passing the promotion selection process.
I've been in the police force around 4 3/4 years, and when hopefully I will become a sergeant in the near future, it will be quite young service to be achieving the goal of sergeants. So I will be the youngest sergeant for wherever I do go, I can foresee.
I think it's really important that you decide now how you're going to carry out your role of sergeant once it actually takes place. I think
although 27-year-old Joanne has passed her promotion exams, she will continue in her existing job until a sergeant's post becomes available.
I was just wondering how you felt, sort of what's been your motivation to obviously get to the point you've had, be it that you've almost broken new ground, really?
I think there are very few people who come into the police service and who say, right, I'm going to be the chief constable, and start off from day one to achieve that. So I think the thing to do is to prepare well for each rank, take on that responsibility, adapt to it, and then whilst you're in that rank, start preparing for the next one.
Pauline was born in 1947 and brought up in Lancashire. She still lives locally with her husband, Stuart. The daughter of the local butcher, she was the eldest of 7 children.
I was probably a very well-behaved, disciplined sort of child who really enjoyed being involved in sort of youth organisations. I think the thing that drew me to the police was more a desire to do something useful in the community.
She joined the police force in 1966 when she was 19 years old.
I was posted to Seaforth, which is the area we're now in, and this area here was an area that I used to patrol regularly. I used to carry out school crossing patrol duties. This is where I got my sort of first 2-3 years grounding in policing. It was actually quite difficult for women officers to work. There were some quite sort of tough estates to police. We used to do pub visits, and when we went into pubs, the reaction that we got was shouting, jeering. Very often we came out of the pub and we found that we got spit all over our backs. I've also been involved in dealing with some very large fights at nightclubs where I've had to go in to take the microphone, go on the stage and empty the place. So I've had my moments. On many occasions I was the first officer to arrive at the scene. I thoroughly enjoyed being in operational situations, and the more difficult, the more sort of exciting it was. But there have been lots of cases that I've dealt with that have been upsetting, particularly in my earlier days. But I think you learn to cope with the difficult circumstances, and I think you learn to question your own values. When I was Assistant Chief Constable in Merseyside, I think the most demanding case was the murder of Jamie Bulger. It was one which certainly affected all the police officers who were involved. It attracted enormous media interest, which of course is an added dimension that has to be managed.
More than 50 police officers carried out a painstaking search.
I think it was one of the most demanding times because of the emotion that was being shown by the officers involved. I think that was the most difficult thing to deal with.
Officers were today questioning shoppers at the Strand precinct.
Because when you went to team briefings and officers talked about their experiences in those interviews, you could actually feel the emotion there. I mean, there were actually tears shed. So people felt tremendously moved by what they'd seen. And you, as an assistant chief, can't fail to be affected by it as well. I think when you're dealing with difficult situations, highly charged emotional situations, it's very difficult to switch off. I think there are times when all officers, no matter what the rank, no matter what the position are, do bring things home. And I think what we all have to do is develop our own ways of coping with that. My strategy will be to get out into the garden and you know, really get amongst the plants and switch off completely. I like to spend time with Stuart going off and doing things on our own, and I guard it quite jealously. Oh, look at the ornamental cabbages.
Brilliant one, isn't it?
I think they look really nice, don't they?
Yeah, which is that one?
Those are, yeah. Does that appeal to you?
Yeah. Sturdy little.
Sturdy. I think if you're going to buy one, I think you need to perhaps